There is a version of you at 65 that is sharp, energetic, and genuinely thriving. And there is another version of you at 65 that is exhausted, medicated, and watching the years run out. What separates those two versions? It is almost never genetics. Researchers at Harvard have been tracking this for decades, and what they keep finding is that up to 80% of how you age comes down to the choices you make in your daily life, not the DNA you were handed. Today, we are going to talk about 5 of the most powerful of those choices. 5 habits that, when stacked together, have been shown to add more than a decade of healthy life. Stay with me through number 3, because that one is going to surprise you. Welcome to Longevity Lab, where we dig into the science of living longer, living well, and doing it without overhauling your entire life. If you are new here, subscribe now. We publish every week, and what we cover here you will not find packaged this clearly anywhere else. Let's get into it. Habit number 1, and I want you to take this seriously because most people don't. Protect your deep sleep like it is currency, because it is. Here is what is happening inside your body while you sleep. During the deepest stages of sleep, what scientists call slow-wave sleep, your brain activates a system called the glymphatic system. Think of it as your brain's overnight cleaning crew. It flushes out metabolic waste, including a toxic protein called amyloid beta, which is one of the primary culprits in Alzheimer's disease. When you consistently cut your sleep short, even by just 90 minutes, you are leaving that cleaning crew clocked out before the job is done. Night after night, the waste accumulates. A landmark study published in Nature Communications followed nearly 8,000 people over 25 years and found that people who regularly slept 6 hours or less in their 50s were 30% more likely to develop dementia later in life. Now here is what nobody tells you: it is not just about how many hours you sleep. It is about sleep architecture, the quality and sequence of your sleep cycles. 3 things that protect your deep sleep specifically. First, keep your bedroom temperature between 65 and 68 degrees Fahrenheit. Your core body temperature needs to drop slightly to trigger deep sleep, and a cool room accelerates that. Second, cut alcohol at least 3 hours before bed. Alcohol makes you fall asleep faster but destroys slow-wave sleep quality. You sleep longer and wake up exhausted. That is the trade-off nobody advertises. Third, get morning sunlight in your eyes within 30 minutes of waking. This resets your circadian rhythm and actually improves the quality of your deep sleep that same night. 10 minutes outside. No sunglasses. That is all it takes. Habit number 2 is one that far too many people in their 30s and 40s ignore, and they pay for it heavily in their 60s and 70s. Build and preserve your muscle mass. Seriously. Starting around age 35, your body begins losing muscle at a rate of roughly 1% per year if you do not actively fight it. By 60, you could have lost 25 to 30% of your peak muscle mass. That loss has a name, sarcopenia, and it is one of the most underappreciated drivers of early death and loss of independence. Here is why muscle is a longevity organ and not just an aesthetic one. Muscle is the primary site of glucose disposal in your body. The more muscle you carry, the better your body regulates blood sugar, which directly lowers your risk of type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, and cognitive decline. All of the big killers. A 2022 study in the Journal of Cachexia, Sarcopenia, and Muscle found that low muscle mass was independently associated with a 60% higher risk of all-cause mortality, even after controlling for cardiovascular fitness. So what does this mean practically? You do not need to become an athlete. You need to do 2 to 3 sessions per week of resistance training, and you need to be progressively challenging yourself, meaning the weights go up over time, not stay the same. Prioritize compound movements. Squats, hip hinges like deadlifts, rows, and pressing movements. These recruit the largest muscle groups and give you the most return on your time investment. And eat enough protein. Most people in their 40s are chronically undereating protein. Aim for at least 0.7 grams per pound of body weight per day. If you weigh 160 pounds, that is roughly 112 grams of protein daily. Eggs, fish, legumes, Greek yogurt. Non-negotiable. Quick pause. If you are finding this useful, hit that like button right now. It genuinely helps this channel reach more people who need this information, and it costs you nothing. Now let's get to habit 3, This one catches almost everyone off guard. Habit number 3. And this is the one I promised would surprise you. Your social life is a biological longevity lever. I am not talking about being extroverted or having hundreds of friends. I am talking about something very specific that researchers have been studying for 30 years. In 2023, a meta-analysis published in PLOS Medicine, pooling data from 148 separate studies and over 308,000 participants, found that people with strong social relationships had a 50% greater likelihood of survival over a given study period compared to those with weak or absent social ties. That effect size is comparable to quitting smoking. Let that land for a moment. Your relationships are as important to how long you live as whether you smoke or not. Here is the biology behind it. Chronic loneliness, meaning the persistent feeling of social disconnection, even if you are surrounded by people, elevates cortisol, disrupts sleep architecture, suppresses immune function, and accelerates the shortening of telomeres, which are the protective caps on your DNA that determine how fast your cells age. Shorter telomeres equal accelerated biological aging. This is measurable. Loneliness is aging you at the cellular level. Now, the practical side. This is not about forcing yourself to be social when you are drained. It is about intentional, quality connection. Research consistently shows it is the depth of relationships, not the number of them, that matters. 3 actions that work. 1. Schedule 1 recurring, in-person commitment per week with someone who genuinely energizes you. A walk, a meal, a workout. Put it in the calendar like an appointment. 2. If you have relationships that are chronically draining or high conflict, that stress is also measurable in your biology. Boundary setting is not a soft skill, it is a longevity protocol. 3. If genuine loneliness is something you are navigating, community structures, a class, a club, a volunteer group, are among the most evidence-backed entry points, because they provide repeated, low-stakes exposure to the same people, which is how trust and connection actually build. Habit number 4 is one that longevity researchers are increasingly calling the single most important measurable predictor of long-term health. It is your VO2 max, your body's maximum capacity to use oxygen during exercise. Here is why this number matters so much. A landmark study published in JAMA Network Open in 2022 tracked more than 750,000 military veterans and found that low cardiorespiratory fitness was the strongest predictor of early death in the entire dataset, stronger than smoking, stronger than heart disease, stronger than diabetes. Going from low fitness to moderate fitness reduced the risk of death by nearly 50%. That is not a marginal improvement. That is transformative. And here is what people get wrong about training VO2 maximum. Most people either go too easy, casual walking, easy cycling that never challenges the cardiovascular system, or they go too hard and burn out. The protocol that research consistently supports is called Zone 2 training combined with periodic high-intensity intervals. Zone 2 means exercising at a pace where you can still hold a conversation, but just barely. For most people, that is a brisk walk, a light jog, or easy cycling. You want 150 to 180 minutes per week at this intensity. Then, once or twice a week, add 4 to 6 rounds of 4-minute hard efforts, working at roughly 85 to 90% of your maximum effort, followed by 3 to 4 minutes of recovery. This is the stimulus that most directly drives VO2 max improvement. You do not need a gym. You do not need equipment. You need consistent effort, over time. Habit number 5 ties all of the others together, and it operates at a level most people never think about. Manage your chronic inflammation, because it is the engine running underneath almost every disease of aging. Inflammation is not inherently bad. Acute inflammation, the kind that kicks in when you have an injury or an infection, is your immune system doing its job. The problem is chronic low-grade inflammation that never fully switches off. Scientists even have a name for it, Inflammaging. It is the slow, persistent fire that drives heart disease, cancer, dementia, and metabolic dysfunction simultaneously. The good news, your daily habits either pour fuel on that fire or damp it down. And you have enormous control over this. 5 evidence-backed inflammation reducers. First, extra virgin olive oil. 2 to 3 tablespoons per day. Look specifically for oils made from high polyphenol varieties, koroniki from Greece, picule from Spain. The polyphenols, particularly oleocanthal, have been shown in research to inhibit the same inflammatory pathways as ibuprofen. Use it to cook your eggs. Drizzle it on vegetables. Make it a daily staple. Second, sleep. Yes, again. Poor sleep is one of the most potent drivers of inflammatory markers in the human body. This is why the habits stack. Each one reinforces the others. Third, resistance training. Muscle tissue, when regularly challenged, releases anti-inflammatory compounds called myokines. Your muscles are a pharmacy, but only if you use them. Fourth, stress regulation. Chronic psychological stress, unresolved, unmanaged, elevates cortisol and directly activates inflammatory pathways. This is not abstract. It is biochemistry. A consistent mindfulness practice, even 10 minutes of daily breath-focused attention, has been shown in randomized controlled trials to measurably reduce inflammatory biomarkers like interleukin-6 and CRP within 8 weeks. Fifth, your gut microbiome. The trillions of microorganisms in your digestive system have a direct line to your immune system. A diverse microbiome, fed by a wide variety of plant foods, fermented foods like kefir and kimchi, and adequate dietary fiber, produces short-chain fatty acids that actively suppress systemic inflammation. A monoculture gut produces the opposite. Let me bring this home. The science is unambiguous on this. Aging is not something that simply happens to you. It is a process that you are either accelerating or decelerating every single day, with your sleep, your movement, your relationships, your cardiovascular fitness, and what is quietly happening inside your immune system. You do not need to implement all 5 of these at once. Pick the one that feels most within reach this week. Build it into your routine until it stops requiring willpower. Then add the next one. That is the protocol. Slow, compounding, deliberate. The people who thrive at 70 and 80 did not get there by accident. They made these choices, most of them, in their 40s and 50s. You are already here. That means you are already ahead. If this video was useful to you, subscribe to Longevity Lab. We publish every week and everything we cover is grounded in peer-reviewed research, translated into things you can actually apply. And if you want to go deeper on one specific habit from today's video, drop it in the comments. The most requested topic becomes our next video, so your comment directly shapes what gets made here. I will see you in the next one.